Hey guys, this is Mr. H. Hey, I am going to do question number 27 from the August 2024 Algebra 1 Regents exam. This is a good question that really, I think, really tests your understanding of the difference between a relation and a function. And I'm actually going to try to highlight something that I see a lot of students, a mistake that I see a lot of students and even some teachers make when they are trying to tell the difference between a relation and a function. So let me jump into this. The first part of this question says, explain why the relation shown in the table below is a function, right? And basically what you want to say is something to the effect that every input or every x value has one and only one output. That's technically the definition of a function. So I can write something to the effect every input has one and only one output. Now, if you write that, they're going to give you credit because that's the definition of a function. Now, some people I've heard say, well, it's a function because the x's don't repeat, right? And most teachers will say, yeah, that's okay. But technically, it's not only that the x's don't repeat, but the x's only have one value associated with it. That's the bigger idea. It's not that the x's don't repeat. And I'm gonna show you why I'm saying that in the second part. So I think you would get credit from most graders if you said the x's don't repeat. I think they would give you credit for that because I think most teachers understand that that's what a lot of students and a lot of teachers have said. But technically, that's not right. So, and I'm going to show you. So I've already done a mapping diagram. So I'm going to take this table, which is the table up there, and I'm going to create a mapping diagram. So here's a mapping diagram. So every one of the inputs from the domain are mapped over to a output from the range. Notice, you never put a number twice in either the domain or the range bubble. So no matter how many times you see a number, you only put it once. And the way that you indicate that it's going to multiple outputs is you would use 2 arrows or 3 arrows or whatever, right? So notice there's only one 4 here. I didn't put 3 4s or 2 4s. I just put 1. And the reason that I put 1 is because that's what you're supposed to do. Now, the fact that 2 of these arrows are going to the same output, that does not make it not a function. It is a function because every input is going to one and only one output. Now, so the question here says complete the table for both the x and y so that the new relation is not a function. Now, some students, if they're using this x don't repeat, if you put any of these numbers here, right, they're saying, okay, because I have the x value -1 again, that means it's not a function. No, it's not a function if you put any number in here besides 2. Because if you put a 2 in here, this is still a function, right? This is still a function. It doesn't matter that you have a -1 over here and a -1 over here. The outputs are the same. You got a 2 here and a 2 here. So that means if I were trying to map this, I wouldn't have to add anything to the domain or the range. I wouldn't have to put another arrow because when I press the -1 input key, I get the output of 2. It doesn't matter if I press it twice, 3 times, 4 times. If I still keep getting the same output, that's a valid function. Now, what would make it not a function is if I put a -1 in here and I put any other number besides 2. It could be 2.5, it could be a -2, it could be 22, it could be 222. Any of these numbers. Now, this isn't a function anymore because I would have to go down here to my range and I would have to put that other number in here. Let's say I'll put a -2, and then I would have to draw another arrow going to that other output. And now I have two outputs for the same input. And I cannot have that. That would make my relation no longer, or my function no longer a function, because now I have two arrows coming from one input. You can't have that. You can have the same arrow going to the same input as many times as you want to. Or let me say that one more time because I didn't say it quite right. You can have any arrow going from any input to the same output as many times as you want. I could keep doing this forever. Oh, this arrow is going over to 2, this arrow is going over to 2, this arrow is going over to 2. It doesn't matter. As long as it's going to the same output every single time, that's a function. It's when it goes to that function or that output and another output, then it's no longer a function. So I hope you guys understand the difference, because that's a very subtle difference. I think a lot of people don't get that, but that's what makes it a function. Every input has to have a unique one and only one output. You can't have an input going to two different numbers or two different outputs. But if they're going to the same output, like we had before, it's still a function. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, leave a comment in the comment section and we can have a conversation and try to clear things up. Hope it makes sense. I'm going to stop and post.